Have you ever found yourself in just a complete creative rut, desperately seeking for that spark of inspiration? What if I told you that this video was a break open in case of emergency toolkit for this situation? Today, I am excited to reveal exactly that, a one-of-a-kind, comprehensive compilation of the most innovative After Effects transition tutorials in all of YouTube. This isn't just any collection. Think of it as your creative lifeline, meticulously crafted over the years for moments when you're grappling with that creative block. Every tutorial in this video is a gateway into new ideas. Now hear this, each one of these transitions is specifically time-coded for your convenience with chapter markers. You can come back and refer back to any one at any time. Think of this as your go-to resource that is always there to reignite your creativity whenever you need it the most. Before we get started though, click on the link in the description to get over $700 worth of our sick effects packs for only $59. This bundle is called the Total Collection Bundle and it has a ton of stuff in it, including our ePrism packs. These are incredible looking prism and digital lens distortion effects right in Premiere Pro. You also get 3 of our cinematic titles packs, our TV screens and computer screens pack. You can literally put any footage that you want inside of these screens. And there's so many other awesome packs in this bundle. There's over 20 in total. In fact, if you want more information on this, just skip ahead in the chapter markers where it says Total Collection Bundle. All right guys, now let's jump into the transitions. How's it going guys? Josh here, aka Olufemi. Sometimes I just go out and create something for fun. I just created this dope video with my friend IMD. Check it out.
And keep your love for the champion, you the champ. I swear to God, man, you the champion, you the champ. I swear to God, in here, you the champ. And you the moose, now I got champion, you the champ. And you the man, you the champion, you the champ. I swear to God, man, you the champion, you the champ. I swear to God, in here, you the champ. And you the moose, now I got champion, you the champ. And you the man.
I made this video in After Effects using a lot of masks, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how I did it. How's it going guys? I'm going to show you how to do this really cool masking trick. We shot in 4K and we had the talent wrap and do the same movements in the exact same way at each location. First thing we're going to do though is we're going to make proxies out of each of these clips. Set your proxy resolution to 320/180. The cool thing about proxies is they don't need to actually look good. You just need to have a basic understanding of what the footage looks like so that we can do our masking and VFX stuff in peace without having to worry about the computer slowing down. So let's export that out. We're then going to go and do the same thing for clip number 2. This is a 4K clip and we're going to create a proxy for clip number 2. Perfect. So we've created proxies out of all of these 4K clips. They're still stored away on our computer. We're not going to bring them in yet. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to right click. We're going to highlight all of these 4K clips and the music track. And we're going to right click and go to replace with After Effects composition. And that's going to bring us into After Effects. We are now in After Effects. And next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually create pre-comps out of all of these individual clips. Pre-compose, make sure that it's on, move all attributes to the new composition clicked. Perfect. Now you may be wondering, why did we just do that? Well, the reason is we're going to want to actually bring in our proxies in, and you're going to actually realize why very soon. So let's import all of our proxies that we just made, proxy 1 all the way to proxy 4. And then let's do a little bit of housekeeping before we move on. Let's create a new folder for those proxies called proxies. Cool. So the comp that was automatically made when we put all these clips into Premiere is this one, Quadro App Example Linked Comp 02. That's a weird, confusing name. I want to make that simpler. Let's name this Base Comp for no reason except this is kind of the initial comp that we're gonna put everything into. All these comps that are basically containers of our 4K clips were automatically created. These names. After Effects almost automatically created these names for these comps or pre-comps. So 1.mp4 comp 1 is the comp that has our 4K clip 1 and so on. The question then is, why did we create these pre-comps? Why did we pre-comp all these clips inside their own comps? Well, the reason is I want an easy way to click on and off the proxies. So we have our proxies. I want to now put into this initial comp proxy 1 over the first 4K clip that's called 1. So as you can see, it's kind of small. The proxy is actually really small because, as you remember, we had it in such a low resolution. That resolution, I happen to know, is 6 times less than the resolution of the sequence. The sequence in After Effects is just full HD, so 1920. So I'm going to go to scale, and I'm going to scale this up to 600. So all you have to remember is scale up to 600, and you should have a your footage should completely cover the 4K footage. So this is the proxy footage. It's a very low res. Right on top is the 4K footage. So we're going to turn on the proxy and we're going to turn off the 4K footage, and we're going to do the same thing for each of these other comps. All right, let's turn off all of the 4K clips for now. We don't need to use those until we're done masking. Don't worry, we'll get back to turning them on later. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the audio for all these clips, because when you have the audio on in After Effects, it just slows things down further, and we don't really have to worry about the audio within any of these comps. Okay, cool. So we can, for now, close all these comps. We're back in base comp. That's the comp that has all of these comps within it. Cool. And now we're just dealing with proxies. And whenever we want to go back to using the 4K clips, it's actually really easy. All we got to do is go into any of these compositions, turn off the proxy, and turn on the 4K clip. And it's that simple. Next thing we do is pretty easy. We just create a bunch of masks, and then we animate them. So I just created a mask by clicking on the rectangle tool. I just used rectangle masks for this video. So then you can go to mask path and animate it any way that you like. And the biggest thing, guys, is you want to make sure that as you mask over, that the clips behind what you're masking has Tom in a similar position. That should be the case for the most part, because I tried my best to make sure that he did the exact same movements at the exact same part of the song for every take, regardless of the location. All right, guys, that's all I'm going to do for now. You can kind of see the basic idea. For the actual video, I did a ton more masks, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to leave it at this. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to pre-compose all of these layers again. Why would we do that? Make sure that it's on move all attributes to new composition. The reason why we want to do that is we want to add a few more effects just to make this a little bit more interesting. First thing I want to do is I want to add an effect called optics compensation. We're going to click on reverse lens distortion, and we're going to then change the field of view. There we go. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to keyframe the movement a little bit. So what we're going to do then is we're going to actually add movement back in post. And the cool thing is we shot 4K. So when we zoom in, as long as we don't do it too much, we won't be able to notice the change of resolution too much. So you will be able to know it now because we're using proxies, but as you know, we're going to turn the proxies off and turn our 4K clips on, at the end of this tutorial. So don't worry about that quite yet. Okay, cool, perfect. So we're going to right click here. We're going to highlight all of these keyframes again, and then we're going to actually go to keyframe assistant. Or keyframe interpolation, sorry. We're going to change this to Bezier. There we go. It's going to, give a little bit of bounce. It can give a little bit of a smooth transition instead of a hard linear one. One other thing I want to do to make the transition even smoother, or the zoom even smoother, or the scaling even smoother, excuse me, is that I'm going to go into our graph editor. Basically what I'm doing here in the graph editor is I'm just easing the transition so that it starts off really fast and then it ends very, very slow. I'm just adjusting the edges so that instead of it being somewhat like this, it's actually taking a lot more time to get to this ending point than it would usually. So it's going to start really fast and then it's going to end very, very slow right there. The graph editor can be a little bit confusing. There are tons of tutorials that go a little bit more in depth. Try to just copy me as perfectly as you can, and if you understand it perfectly, you can then adjust it even more according to your own preferences. But there's one last thing I want to do, just for the sake of it. I want to add an expression. I want to add a wiggle, and that's going to just give us a little bit of this handheld wiggle look. It's not quite handheld, but for the sake of things, it'll work. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into animation. We're going to go, or first actually, let's go into transform, position. Just click, make sure that's highlighted, then go to animation, go to add expression, and we're going to type in wiggle. If you've never used a wiggle before, well, welcome to the world of expressions. It's relatively easy to use. You're going to type wiggle, and then open parentheses. The first number will be how often the footage shakes per second. So we're going to try 10 first. And then the second number is going to be the amount of pixel movement. We're going to try 5. We're probably going to change it up later, but I just want to see what it does so far. Okay, you have a little bit of shake. It kind of looks like handheld shake. You get the idea of what it's doing. You can then adjust that to your liking. If you ever see black edges like this, sometimes it means that you're wiggling it too much, that you're actually wiggling the footage outside of the edges of the actual footage. You can either adjust that by just adjusting the scale and scaling in a tiny bit. You have to make sure you scale in each one of these keyframes. Or what I like to do is you can just throw in a motion tile effect on this. Change the output width to say 300, or heck, let's do 200. This will basically tile the footage so that it just duplicates it. And then you're gonna go to mirror edges and then bye-bye black edges. It's pretty perfect. Okay guys, and lastly, we're going to now go back and finally turn off our proxies now that we know that everything is set, everything is perfect. Now the last thing you got to do is just export. We're going to go back into Premiere to do that, but I want to just show you and make sure that you actually understand that we're actually dealing with a 1920 by 1080 sequence in After Effects. So that means that your proxies had to be multiplied by 6 in order to fill the frame, and your 4K footage actually had to be reduced by 50% in order to fill the frame. Just random facts, thought it might be useful to know. Everything is perfect though, because what we're going to do is we're going to go back to Premiere, and in Premiere we as well have a sequence that is 1920 by 1080. You can see right here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to actually export out 1920 by 1080 out of Premiere. We're going to call this wrap. We're going to do save, and then we're going to export, and that's it guys. Thank you so much for watching guys. This is actually not as hard as you would think to actually do. The hardest part is actually just making sure that your talent is actually wrapping, doing the exact same movements in every single shot at the same time. So one thing that you want to do, one thing that I did was I made sure that he kind of locked his legs in one place. It made it a lot easier to make sure they were always going to be in the same place in every shot. And so all he had to do was make sure that his upper body was doing the exact same thing in the exact same place and time for every shot, so that every shot aligned perfectly. I'm going to show you guys how to make this sick video.
I just had enough of waiting. I worked hard, they stuck with lazy. If I stayed, I just went crazy. People change, everything's in constant motion. My old girl's across the ocean. Thumbs up, babe, that's lost the
Chris, let's do a tutorial, man.
What?
Let's do it on something called the circle wipe and zooming through walls. How do we do it? Let's tell the world.
Like this. Hey guys, it's Chris with Iron Will Productions. We got hit up on Instagram a lot. People want to know how we made this video, but we used 3 pieces of equipment: a Ronin, a camera, and a pole.
Josh here. All you got to do is you put the camera on the Ronin once you build it up, of course. Set your shot up over there. Pretend the camera is on the Ronin. And then you use this pole to wipe across the entire shot. It's that easy. So you guys have the opportunity to learn for free exactly how I made this 2-part transition by watching this 2-part video. Alright guys, so I'm in After Effects, and as you can see I have two clips that have this metal pipe thing wiping across the frame. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out this wipe transition by clicking on this clip and then using my pen tool to mask out the frame so that the frame masks itself out as the metal thing passes. So we're going to go into here, go into masks. We're going to first change this mask to a subtract mask. There we go, so that this footage masks itself out. Let's go back to our selection tool as it passes. So we clicked on the mask path, on the stopwatch on the mask path to keyframe the mask path. Now I'm going to continue to keyframe across. Another important thing is we actually need to make sure that this mask is blurring itself. There's motion blur as it goes across the screen. So what we're going to do is we're going to enable motion blur for all layers, click on this, and then we're going to enable motion blur for this specific layer by clicking on this. We're going to just enable motion blur for both clips because we're going to need it for this clip as well. So as you can see now, there's motion blur now as the mask moves, and it looks a lot more realistic. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the other clip. We're actually going to swap these clips so that this clip wipes away and wipes into the other clip. So as you can see, this clip is wiping away. There is a black void where there's actually nothing because this clip is being wiped away. And underneath that black void, we're actually going to put this other clip. There we go. So you can actually see the other clip now, and then the other clip then wipes away. There would of course be a third clip, but I only did two clips for the sake of time. I don't know if you noticed guys, but as these clips change from one clip to another clip, you're actually changing the direction slightly that you're facing with the camera so that you're actually making a full circle. That's why it's called a circle wipe. You start on one end of the circle, then you go around and stuff happens as far as in the middle where you have different clips with other people doing other random stuff, you know, whether it be sweeping or standing on the ladder or anything, and then you end up at the same place, which is the cool, I think that's what makes this effect really cool. So as you guys know, this is only two clips, and we have by no means have completed the full length of the circle. We've only actually gotten just a tiny bit around the circle. I think the full video had like 7 or 8. So I'm gonna transition and go forward in time to a time when I have all the clips masked and perfect. All right, so now we have all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's like 10 or something clips that just the exact same thing was done to each individual clip. There was a wipe with this pole, this metal thing, and I masked out the clip as the wipe happened. That's all this was, guys. So now all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you a few different things. This is what it looks like. I'm now gonna show you how to introduce the camera spin. Now, as you can see, I did not spin the camera at all, but what I'm gonna do is I'm going to pre-compose all these clips by highlighting all of them, going to pre-compose, name them whatever, and then I'm going to go to an effect called CC Motion Tile, or actually nope, just called Motion Tile, and we're going to put it on the clip. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to change that to 200, and we're going to change that to 200. And all that does, and we're going to mirror edges, but all that does is it extends, it basically duplicates the clip, both on the width side and on the height side. And so when we spin the clip, like we're going to, it's going to allow no black to be seen on the edges. So let's keyframe a quick rotation. Let's do this, then over here. Go to here, then we're gonna do this, and then right here, let's go right here, bring it back around. Okay, let's move these keyframes a little bit closer to the front of the clip, and let's just see how this looks. All right, and as you can see, it looks pretty cool. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to highlight all of these keyframes. I'm going to go to keyframe assistant. I'm going to do easy ease. That's going to make this a little bit smoother of a rotation. And then I'm going to do something even cooler. Check this out. So this is pretty smooth. Okay, but what I want to do is I'm actually going to go into the graph editor. All right, and actually let me go out of the graph editor and tell you what I did. So first I'm going to click on rotation, then I'm going to go on the graph editor, and then I'm going to make sure that the graph editor is on edit speed graph. Then I'm going to go to each of these humps. This represents the motion of the rotation that's happening, and I'm going to take the second point of each of these humps, and I'm going to straighten it out so that there's a sharp acceleration at the front as far as the rotation goes, and then the rotation slows down at the end. So just mimic that once you go on the speed graph by stretching the this little line that comes out of the second point out of each of these humps. We're going to go back and we're going to see how that affects the rotation. As you can see, it goes really fast and then it slows down, and it kind of gives it a more smooth and professional look, in my opinion. Okay, cool. Alrighty, so the next thing I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to show you guys how to make that little shake. Once Corey comes and high fives Chris, there is a little shake that happens. This is just a really quick way of doing that. I'm going to use the wiggle expression. I'm going to duplicate the clip, and I'm going to cut a little sliver out, and then I'm going to go into this duplicated clip, and I'm going to go to transform. I'm going to go to position, and I'm going to go to animation. I'm going to go to add expression, wiggle, and then I'm going to type 10. This is the I'm going to type 100. This is the frequency, and then 10, which is the amplitude of the wiggle. Just copy that. Actually, you know what? I'm going to actually change that to 40. I want the amplitude to be a lot more, so it's going to shake a lot more. So it's going to wiggle just on that one piece that I copied. If you can see the little wiggle that just happened. Video. Bam.
I just had enough of waiting. I worked hard, they stuck with lazy. If I stayed, I just went crazy. People change, everything's in constant motion. My old girl's across the ocean. Thumbs up, babe, that's lost the
Have you ever watched a music video and wondered just how those incredibly looking beautiful transitions just blend so effortlessly? In this video, I'm gonna dive into the world of deflection. I'm talking about the split-second magic-making technique that makes hard cuts just completely vanish before your eyes. This is done by using a short transition to literally distract your eyes for a fraction of a second until that hard cut passes. All of this miraculously makes the edit just appear 10 times smoother without the viewer really understanding why. Today I'll be unveiling 10 of these blink till you'll miss it deflection transitions that we've crafted in After Effects. I'll be diving deep into the first 6 transitions, giving you a step-by-step walkthrough so that you can master them in your own edits, and giving you the foundation to create the remaining transitions that I will review and go over. Now, if you'd rather have someone else do all these transitions for you, I have packaged them into a handy preset bundle that you can get right in the link below. Let's jump right in. Hey guys, this first transition that we're gonna go over is called the Wave Morph Zoom. The Wave Morph Zoom is the perfect transition that you want to use when you're cutting on action. Cutting on action in the world of video editing refers to the technique of making a cut between 2 shots that are linked by a visual or contextual action. By aligning the cut with a movement or action that is taking place, the transition between the 2 shots feels more fluid and seamless to the viewer. For example, if a character is seen opening a door in one shot, the next shot might begin with the door actually opening from the other side or from a different angle. You are cutting on the action of the door opening. Here's another example. Maybe you have a shot of a baseball player in the middle of a baseball game getting ready to hit a ball. As the bat actually connects with the ball and hits it, the scene then would cut to a wide shot, capturing the ball soaring through the stands for a home run. This seamless cutting on action again emphasizes the ball hit. The wave morph zoom can be used as a stylized garnish to add to the top of a cut on action to almost exaggerate it. It's almost as if the action in that first shot is literally bending space-time as you're transitioning to the next shot. This is how you create a wave morph zoom transition. You first open up After Effects, then you create a new adjustment layer in the timeline panel. Right-click in the empty space below your layers and select New, then go to Adjustment Layer. Then enable the Effects and Preset panel. Skip this if you've opened it up already. Go to the Window menu at the top of the After Effects interface. In the Window menu, you should see a list of panels and panels groups. Look for Effects and Presets in this list, then click on Effects and Presets in the menu. This should open up the Effects and Presets panel on the right side of your After Effects workspace. Next, apply the following effects using the Effects and Presets panel search bar to find them, and once you've found the effects, click and drag them from the Effects and Presets panel onto your adjustment layer in the timeline panel. These are the effects: Transform, CC Radial Fast Blur, Brightness and Contrast, and Turbulent Displace. Guys, it's important that you actually arrange them in this order in the Effects Control panel. In the Transform effect, move the playhead to the point where you want the transition to occur and create a keyframe for the Scale property under the Transform effect. Set Scale to 128. Then move 3 frames backward and set the scale to 100. Then move 8 frames forward and set the scale to 100. Next, select all scale keyframes and easy ease them. Then play around with the value graph to add more life to the animation as shown below. Next, set Transform Shutter Angle to 67 and make sure that Use Composition Shutter isn't enabled. Next, on the CC Radial Fast Blur effect, you're going to move your playhead to the point where you want the transition to occur and create a keyframe for CC Radial Fast Blur amount. Set amount to 73 and move 3 frames backward, and then set amount to 0. Then you're going to move 10 frames forward and set the amount to 0 again. Then select all CC Radial Blur keyframes and easy ease them. Afterward, you're going to play around with the value graph to add more life to the animation as shown below. Now we're going to go to the Brightness and Contrast effect. For this effect, you're going to move your playhead to the point where you want the transition to occur and create a keyframe for brightness under the Brightness and Contrast effect. Set the brightness to 91 and then move 2 frames backward and set the brightness to 0. After that, move 9 frames forward and set the brightness to 0. Now select all keyframes for the brightness and easy ease them. The value graph should look like this. Next, for the Turbulent Displace effect. On this effect, you're going to start with setting the displacement under the Turbulent Displace effect to bulge. Afterwards, set the displacement size to 290 and the complexity to 2.5. While holding down Alt on your keyboard, click on the stopwatch icon next to the evolution property and replace the default expression with this: time * 300. Next, you're going to move your playhead to the point where you want the transition to occur and move 1 frame forward, then click a keyframe for displacement amount. After that, set displacement amount to 25. Then you're going to move 11 frames forward and set the displacement amount to 0. Next, you're going to move your playhead to the point where you want the transition to occur and move 1 frame backward and then set the displacement amount to 0. You're then going to select all of the displacement keyframes and easy ease them. The value graph should then look like this. After that, you should get a wave morph zoom effect that looks like this on any footage that you use it on. Now guys, we're going to talk about the jerk blur transition. This transition seems to work well when you're transitioning to a shot with lateral movement from the right to the left. I'm talking about lateral movement either just in the last shot or in both shots. The jerk blur transition just again adds to the hiding of the hard cut and seems to emphasize that lateral movement. It's really easy to make. All you gotta do is again create an adjustment layer, then apply the fast box blur to that adjustment layer. Then you're going to move your playhead to the point where you want the transition to occur, and then click on the blur radius stopwatch icon to create a keyframe. Set the blur radius to 47 and set the blur dimension to horizontal and the iterations to 3. Next, move 2 frames back and set the blur radius to 0. Then move 6 frames forward and set the blur radius to 0 again. And this is the resulting transition that you get on any 2 clips that you choose to put it on top of. The next transition we're going to talk about is called the Gleam. The Gleam transition seems to work well in visually representing, I don't know how to quite explain it, something like a burst of energy. You should try implementing it on footage to complement a musical beat drop or a clap. First thing you gotta do is create an adjustment layer and then apply the following effects to that adjustment layer. The mini max effect, brightness and contrast, and the transform effect. Again, please make sure to arrange them in the order that is shown to you right here. Next, you're gonna move your playhead to the point where you want the transition to occur and create a keyframe for the mini-max radius and the transform scale. In the case of this video, we're gonna set the mini-max radius to 8, but remember this might differ depending on the footage that you are choosing to use. And then you're gonna set the transform scale to 105. Then you're gonna move 3 frames backward and reset both the mini-max radius and the transform scale to the default values, which are 0 and 100. Next, you're going to move 12 frames forward and reset both the mini-max radius and the transform scale keyframes to the default values. Please make sure that Don't Shrink Edges for the mini-max effect is enabled in the effects controls panel. Next, move your timeline playhead to the point where you want the transition to happen, and then move 1 frame forward, and then create a keyframe for brightness under the brightness and contrast effect. Set brightness to 41, then move 2 frames backward, and then set the brightness to 0. Next, you're going to move 8 frames forward and set the brightness to 0, and feel free to play around with the values and the spacing of these keyframes to your liking. Next, you're going to finally select all the keyframes and easy ease all of them. The resulting transition that you're going to get after following all these steps is this. Hey guys, just a reminder for all you lazy video editors out there, remember that you can get all of these transitions as simple one-click drag and drop presets in the description below. They are super convenient, really easy to use, and will save you a ton of time. Guys, this next transition that we're going to cover is one of my favorite. It's called the Chroma Shake. The Chroma Shake is just a really beautiful looking transition. Again, it's one of my favorite deflective transitions that we're going to cover in this series. I usually use it as like the kinetic visual complement to a major audio moment, like maybe a bass drop in a music video. You can create it by, again, creating an adjustment layer. Then you're going to apply the following effects to the adjustment layer. Motion tile, channel blur, directional blur, and brightness and contrast. Please make sure that you arrange them in this specific order. Then you're going to set the motion tile, both the output width and the height, to 400. And make sure that mirror edges is enabled. Then you're going to move your playhead to the point where you want the transition to occur, and create keyframes for both red and blue blurriness under the channel blur effect. Make the red blurriness 42 and the blue blurriness at 86. Now move 5 frames forward and set the red and blue blurriness to 0. Then you're going to move 13 frames forward and set the red and blue blurriness to 0. Make sure the blue dimension is set to horizontal only. Next, you're going to move your playhead to the point where you want the transition to occur and create a keyframe for the direction blur length. Set the length to 191. Now move 4 frames backward and set the length to 0. Then move 11 frames forward and set the length to 0. Don't forget to easy ease the blur length keyframes and play around with the value graph to add more life to the animation, just like you see in the image right here. Now, next you're going to move the playhead to the point where you want the transition to occur and then move 2 frames backward. Then you're going to create a keyframe for directional blur direction, and the direction should be 0 times plus 310 degrees. Now move 4 frames forward and set the direction to 1 times plus 139 degrees. Then you're going to move your playhead to the point where you want the transition to occur, and you're going to create a keyframe for both brightness and contrast properties under the brightness and contrast effect. Set brightness to 51 and contrast to 11. Now move 5 frames backward and set brightness and contrast to 0. Then you're going to move 10 frames forward and set both brightness and contrast to 0. And this is the resulting transition that you're going to get.
When I'm Louis V dripping, don't like stress in my dome, straight to the head when I'm 1942 zipping.
Guys, I'm going to go right in and start teaching you how to do the simple drop-down transition. This transition is best used when cutting on action. First thing you got to do is go into After Effects, and then you're going to create an adjustment layer. You're then going to apply the following effects to that adjustment layer: motion tile, directional blur, and brightness and contrast. Please make sure to arrange these effects in the order that I just set them in. Next, you're going to set motion tile output width and height to 400 each, and make sure that mirror edges is enabled. Next, you're going to move the playhead to the point where you want the transition to occur and create a keyframe for the motion tile center. The first keyframe should look like this. Move 2 frames backward and set another keyframe for the motion tile center. The keyframe value should look like this. Then you're going to move 4 frames forward and set another keyframe for the motion tile center. The keyframe value should look like this. Make sure the directional blur direction is set to 0 degrees as shown below. Then you're going to move your playhead to the point where you want the transition to occur and create a keyframe for directional blur length. Then you're going to set the length to 182.7. Now you're going to move 4 frames backward and set the length to 0, and then you're going to move 8 frames forward and then again set the length to 0. Don't forget to easy ease the blur length keyframes and play around with the value graph to add more life to the animation, just like you see right here. Move the playhead to the point where you want the transition to occur and create a keyframe for both the brightness and the contrast properties under the brightness and contrast effect. Set the brightness to 51 and the contrast to 11. Now move 5 frames backward and set the brightness and contrast to 0. Now move 10 frames forward and set both brightness and contrast to 0. The resulting transition should look like this.
When I'm Louis V dripping, don't like stress in my dome, straight to the head when I'm 1942 zipping.
The next transition is called the Smoothie, and as its name implies, it offers a juicy seamless blend from one scene to the next. It's kind of a cool one.
Clean it up, get back. Kick it.
First, create an adjustment layer, and then apply the following effects to that adjustment layer: motion tile, twirl, transform, CC lens, brightness and contrast, and directional blur. Please make sure to arrange them in this order. Under motion tile effects, set the motion tile output width and height to 400 each, and make sure that mirror edges is enabled. Disable the CC lens effect for now by clicking on the FX icon before it. Now in the twirl effect, make sure that you move your playhead to the point where you want the transition to occur and create a keyframe for angle under the twirl effect. Set the angle to 1 times 0 degrees, then move 2 frames forward, and set another keyframe with the same value of 1 times 0 degrees. Move 2 frames forward, and set another keyframe for twirl angle and set it at 0 times 0 degrees. Now move 15 frames forward and set a keyframe for twirl angle and set it at 0 times 0 degrees. Altogether, you should have 4 keyframes on the twirl angle alone. Now select them and easy ease them, and then play around with the value graph as shown here. Now we're going to go over and give the transform effect some love. Move your playhead to the point where you want the transition to occur, move 1 frame backward, and then create a keyframe for the scale property under the transform effects. And set the scale to 30.8. Now move 6 frames forward and set the scale to 100. Now move your playhead to the point where you want the transition to occur, then move 10 frames backward and set the scale to 100. Select all keyframes and easy ease them. Then you're going to play around with the value graph just as shown in the image below. Please make sure that your transform angle settings look like this. You're now going to enable the CC lens effect. In the CC lens effect, move your playhead to the point where you want the transition to occur and create keyframes for both CC lens size and convergence. Set size to 126 and convergence to 66. Move 6 frames backward and converge to 100. Move another 5 frames backward and set the convergence to 0. Move 5 frames backward and then set the size to 500. Now move your playhead to the point where you want the transition to occur and move 12 frames forward and set the CC lens convergence to 0. And then move 2 frames backward and set the CC lens size to 500. Now select all size and convergence keyframes and easy ease them. And then play around with the value graph as shown here. The CC lens graph should look like this. And the CC lens conversion graph should look like this. Now moving over to the brightness effect. Move your playhead to the point where you want your transition to occur. And then create a keyframe for the brightness slider and set it to 150. Move 2 frames backward and set the brightness to 0, then move 6 frames forward and set the brightness to 0. Now moving on to the directional blur effect, move your playhead again to that point where you want the transition to occur and set the blur direction to 0 times 56 degrees. Now move 1 frame forward and create a keyframe for blur length. Set blur length at 137. Then move 4 frames forward and set the blur length to 0. Finally, move 7 frames backward and set the blur length again to 0. The resulting transition should look like this. This next transition is called the slot machine side pull with bounce. It's kind of similar to the previously mentioned slot machine drop-down transition. This transition plays with a blend of motion effects, lighting changes, and blurring to slide your visuals from one side to the other. I'd say it's pretty dope. Imagine applying this effect to introduce some type of surprise element in your video, or a stylish way to transition in between scenes during some type of fast-paced montage. This next transition is a really nice one. It's called the Mosaic. The Mosaic is like a 90s-based MTV-style transition, and it's a nostalgic nod to an era of bold and stylistic visuals. Using techniques like motion tile, a little bit of blurring, and then dynamic transform adjustments, we've really created a classic-looking visual effect. You can take a look at how I used the Mosaic transition in the following shots. Now we're going going to talk about the squeeze transition. The squeeze transition adds a dynamic flair by compressing the scene, then rapidly expanding it in just like a fraction of a second. We combined effects like motion towel, then some blurring effects, and then a couple of others, and then we adjusted the sequence just right to get that cool compression expansion feel. Where do I see the squeeze transition shining the most? Again, probably music videos. The next transition that we're going to go over is called the slot machine dropdown. The slot machine dropdown is a dynamic transition. It blends the simple dropdown's essence, that transition that we talked about before, with a little bit of added elasticity. Using the motion towel, transform, and brightness and contrast effects, it gives footage a quick vertical slide with a subtle brightness tweak. Guys, the next transition that we're going to take a look at is called the quick flash. The quick flash is a dazzling transition designed to give just a little bit of lumosity to all of your quick music video edits. Unlike the Gleam Transition that relies on keyframing exposure, the quick flash harnesses the allure of a lens flare to brighten the frame. The next transition that we're going to look at is called the roll blur. The roll blur transition is a bit on the simpler side, but think of it as just a practical transition that could be used for, say, stitching together, say, two shots that both incorporate a little bit of a lateral movement. This product bundle is amazing because it has 20 different packs in it, starting with our flagship product, ePrism. ePrism are these digital lens distortion filters that will completely breathe new life into your footage. These filters break up your footage in these very creative, artistic ways, and they're basically the digital version of the physical prism lens filters that you see on music video sets these days being placed in front of the camera. If you don't hear anything else in this video, downloading these 2 packs of ePrism, Volume 1 and Volume 2, will be the best thing that you've ever done to your editing workflow. Next, we have 3 volumes of this cinematic titles pack. I'm talking about 30 beautiful cinematic intro titles that are just text mogarts, and they're ready right now to be dragged and dropped into your next project. They're easy to use, they're very lightweight in your timeline, and they're easily customizable. Next, we have the CRT titles pack. This pack is really special because it has the ability to put a brilliant, realistic looking CRT effect onto literally any random piece of footage that you throw at it, whether it be a title, a logo, a photo, a video, anything. It's like magic. Next, we have the 50 text animations pack. This pack allows you to transform your ordinary text into an engaging spectacle with these incredible animated text mogarts. Just pick your favorite font, then drag and drop the mogarts into your timeline, and it's as easy as that. Next, we have the 100 track matte transitions pack. This is literally going to be the lightest effects pack that you will ever download in the history of Premiere Pro. This pack is really amazing for fast-paced edits like music videos. Next included are 3 light leak packs. We have Bloom, we have Light Opal, and we have Sea Glass. These packs include dozens and dozens of light leak overlays that you can put over your footage to make them look pristine and beautiful. Next, we have the VHS glitch pack. This pack gives you the most realistic VHS effects that you're going to find on the internet because it's not simply a VHS overlay. This pack actually lifts up and distorts your footage like a real VHS player would. If you want that authentic VHS look, this is the only pack that you're going to want. These next 2 packs are amazing. I'm talking about the TV screens and the computer screens pack. These packs are essentially just mogarts of TVs and computer screens that you can put right in your Premiere Pro timeline and insert literally any piece of footage that you want into them. I usually use TV screens a lot for music videos, either for performance shots or for B-roll, and I use the computer screens pack a lot for promo videos or corporate videos. Guys, the next 2 packs are even more crazy. We have the podcast video template as well as the reaction video template. These packs allow you to elevate your podcasts and your reaction videos with our versatile and easy to use Mogart templates. In these templates, you're able to customize all the text, the backgrounds, the stroke color. You're able to quickly switch from a 16:9 to a 9:16 format for those social media edits. And lastly, they've been safe zone tested. And guys, don't forget that there are 20 total packs in this bundle, and I've only mentioned a couple of them. If you were to buy all these packs individually, they'd be totaling up to over $700. But again, right now, you're gonna be able to get all of them for one single price, $59. Thanks so much for watching, guys. This is the end of our 1-hour After Effects transition tutorial compilation.